Yes, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the third day of exploring the chakras within a transformative paradigm with Dr. Sumitra Basu. Before we start, have a moment's silence, please. So welcome, everyone, to the third day. Yesterday, Dr. Basu drew a clear distinction between the two systems, the traditional system of chakras and Aurobindo's unique perspective of the chakras. It's quite a clear distinction was made. Today we're going to start working, and we're going to be working on the lowest one, the spine and the abdomen. So over to you, Dr. Basu. Looking forward.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for this patient hearing, which at times it can appear a bit boring also. So we'll move today to the chakras, and just reminding that in Aurobindo system, the chakras open from above downwards, and so the movement should have been above downwards. But for us, because we understand things in our own limited way, so we are actually starting from below upwards. And I am to explain every chakra, the significance of every chakra, I will be using specific words which are used in Savitri to describe the significance of the chakras. The words are so concise. Aurobindo's words, which he has put in verse, is so concise for every chakra and so complete that only concentrating on it, meditating on it, will give you the clue of what is going to be done or what is to be done. Now again in Savitri, from where I have taken the quotes of each chakra, they are starting from actually above downwards. But then I am using the quotes in a different way, from below upwards, because for us it will be easier to understand, and then we can come from above downwards now in our own way in which we like. So this is an apology for doing that, doing it in a reverse way, but this is how I thought that we would understand it better, because for us limited beings, we are limited by our physical and our vital, and the higher orders, they come to us, the higher orders of consciousness, but they do not come to us at one go. They come to us in flashes. So we start from what appears to us as concrete. What appears to us as concrete, but actually what appears to us as concrete might not be metaphysically concrete. Yes. So what were you saying anything, Shukantalavi? Okay. You can mute your mic. So we'll start sharing the screen. So these are things that we had gone yesterday. These are so we start today on our experiential working on chakras, but before that, general understanding that because we are wanting to follow Sri Aurobindo's trajectory of proceeding from above below, how do we do that? Because we don't have an experience of the above. We are all ordinary human beings. So we do not have an access to the above, that we will start working from the above and the force will come down below. So like that we don't have that.
ಕೇಳಿಸೋದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ.
Yes. So we will start working in a way so that we are in consonance with Sri Aurobindo's trajectory, and for that it should be a different way than the way of activating the chakras sequentially from below upwards, which Tantra does. So we are going to do it in a different way. And how we are going to do it? So the first movement is to go within, beyond the ego to the psychic being. Actually, we should have started with that, but we'll do it. I think after on Friday we'll do the work of the psychic being. After we have understood a little bit of the other chakras in a very general way. But this is where we have to start. So from where we have to start? In the middle of a being, in the center of our being, a beyond ego principle is there in our fourth dimension. There's the psychic being, and we have to go there. Now going to the psychic being is difficult. But it requires the grace of the mother, and it requires the devotion and what you call a mind which is frank, mind which is sincere, and a mind which is open to the mother's force. So you need that. You need that as your in your armatorium. You need that amount of devotion and that amount of surrender to the mother, so that you can actually go within to the psychic being. As I told you yesterday, that only in our ashram in the whole world there is no initiation or diksha, because the mother's force directly acts on the psychic being. And to go to the psychic being is not so easy. So we'll practice also. On Friday we'll do that. We'll try to see how we can go to the psychic being, because we can stop in the midway, and somewhere in the middle we can be very satisfied by going inside to somewhere which is not the psychic being, but which is sufficiently deep inside, and we think that we have reached the psychic being. So that's why you have to be very cautious. And then going inside the psychic being is one thing, and the psychic being needs instruments to work. So it needs instruments to work. And therefore the second movement is to select the plane of consciousness, and each plane of consciousness corresponds to one of the chakras. And the first day I had given you. Yes, please ask all questions at the end. Please ask all questions. You keep all questions. You write down the questions in the chat box. We'll discuss all the questions at the end. Because this is such a thing that we can go on questioning. We can go on deliberating and questioning. So you see that each plane of consciousness is corresponding to a certain chakra. We had on the second day I had given that. Yesterday I had given that table. I will give the table again afterwards. That you have to know the corresponding plane, and you have to proceed to the corresponding plane in the inner being where you are much comfortable with. You see, you can be comfortable with one plane. You can be comfortable with more than one plane. So you have to be comfortable means that it is simultaneously receptive to the higher forces. Now, it is not only that you are comfortable with it, but you can open that plane for the mother's grace, for the mother's blessings. You can open that. So in yourself, you are ready for that work. You see, it is difficult. It is difficult. You see, it cannot come at one go. When Kapali Shastri was told specifically by Sri Aurobindo that in the outer being, you cannot do this work. In the outer being, when we have our mind, vital and physical, they are all intertwined with each other. They are all intertwined with each other. They are not separate. So you cannot understand the planes separately. In our outer being or the surface personality, or the personality which is studied in psychology, there everything is mixed together. They are all interspersed with each other. They are not separate. So you will not be able to differentiate one plane separately so that you can start working on that plane. So that you are doing something for the chakras. You will not be able to do that at the outer being. You have to go to the inner being. When you go to the inner being, then the planes begin to
Cannot hear
differentiate.
you.
You are not hearing me.
I cannot hear anything.
No, Dr. Basu, we can hear you fine.
Shobhodari, something else in your. Will you check your system? Something is closed or muted. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you very well. I think her speakers may be turned off by mistake.
Shobhodari, is it okay now? No, we can't hear her also. You unmute yourself, otherwise we can't hear you. And tell me, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Also, then you mute yourself and see.
Unmute yourself, Shakundala.
Okay.
Okay. So I hope it is okay now. I hope if it is okay, raise your hands. If it is okay, raise your hands. Okay. So for you, I will start that for Sri Aurobindo's work in Sri Aurobindo's paradigm, because we want to do the work in a different way and not in the way the tantrics work sequentially. Not for that. We want to work in a completely different way. And so therefore we have to first go to the psychic being. From the ego, we have to transcend the ego and go to the psychic being. To go to the psychic being, you have to transcend the ego. And it is not enough. Then you have to select a plane of consciousness which is corresponding to the chakra where you are comfortable with it to start the work. Might be one or more planes. And comfortable means that not only you can do the work there, but it is also open to the higher forces. Now, you cannot do this work at the outer personality or the outer being or the surface personality where everything is mixed with each other. That's why this was one of the first definite instructions that was given to Kapali Shastri, our very great sage and mystic, by Sri Aurobindo, that you have to go within, then only you can differentiate. Unless you go within, you will not be able to understand the differentiated planes with physical, vital, mental. You will not be able to differentiate them. Only when you go within, you can make them separate, you can make them distinct, and then only you can harmonize them around the psychic being, or you can start some work. So you have to go within. So you see, the first you have to know that how you can have the access to the psychic being, and then with the blessings of the mother and with the power of the psychic being, we can go to the inner being. Actually, the inner being is between the psychic being and the outer being, and we can select the plane where we can start working. Now, all these things require work on which we will do, which we will in this next 4 days, we'll try to do exercises where we can do this kind of things. And constantly, while we are doing this, we have to follow this formula: aspiration, rejection, and surrender. Constantly, you have to maintain this formula, because while you are aspiring to go up, the inconscience can come with all sorts of resistance, or from the occult world there can be all sorts of resistance. So resistance can come from below, resistance can come from outside, resistance can come from your ego. So all these things you have to constantly reject. So aspiration is isolated way, it doesn't work unless it is accompanied by rejection. And then you are rejecting where? You are rejecting things that will go into our own unconscious, only into the cosmic waste paper basket, where they will go. So they have a chance to again come back, because they have been given the right to come back again and again and attack us. So all the time, the movement of surrender also has to go. You see, these three movements, aspiration, rejection, and surrender, they are not isolated things. They have to go, all of them have to go together. Otherwise it will not work. Otherwise the system will not work. So this is how we have to go inside. We have to go inside and to select. And you have to go to the inner being. Now, going to the inner being is a very sensitive issue. We'll try to go to the subtle physical, to understand a bit of the inner physical, no? Because we are talking about the physical chakra, we are talking about the Muladhara. So we'll do in the middle, we'll do a little bit of exercises so that you can understand that how you can go with it. So we can start. So we'll start with one exercise. We'll start with one exercise which you have done before. But many of you who are not conversant with it, 2 or 3 exercises that we'll do. Some of them we have done before in different contexts, but the same things specifically for the physical consciousness. But to understand this subtle physical, no? Because when you're working on the Muladhara, what is our main thing? The chakras are opening to the inner being. They are open, and from the inner being to the cosmic consciousness. As we said, that the chakras are the connection between the evolutionary and the non-evolutionary world. You cannot jump to the non-evolutionary world in the cosmic consciousness straight away. You have to go through the inner being, isn't it? You cannot just straight like a galloping train. You cannot just jump like that. So the chakra is opening to the inner being, and the inner being is opening to the cosmic consciousness. So this movement of opening to the inner being itself is a work which the chakra does. You can do it also in that corresponding plane of consciousness by going. While you are doing that, actually you are traversing the channels. Otherwise, you will not be able to do it. But then you will understand it afterwards. First, let us do some 1 or 2 preliminary things to understand that there is a subtle consciousness. You see, we are not just traversing it. We are just trying to understand there is actually a subtle consciousness. There is a subtle body consciousness. So I will give you this exercise, which is actually an exercise given by Aurobindo. It is Aurobindo's own exercise, which he has given in the synthesis. So you just a few minutes, a few seconds, you just bear with me. Afterwards, you can expand on these things which you like, and you can practice it in your home. So we'll just try to, I'll give a direction which you can take up, follow, and we can do it afterwards. Just now you can do with me a few seconds, you can do it. So every exercise will be a very few minutes or some seconds duration that will be given. So just try to think and conceive or conceptualize and visualize that behind your body there is another body, just like you, but it is a subtle body. It is not gross. It is not gross. Behind your gross body, there is a subtle body behind you. And if this is difficult to conceive, difficult to conceptualize, then conceive it in parts, that there is behind your head, there is something where all the activities that go on in your head goes on. Behind your chest, there is something where all your heartbeats or other things that go on in your front, in your body, that can go on behind. So behind your abdomen, there is a space where all your abdominal movements can also be represented. So behind your muscles, there are subtle muscles, which can actually reflect the work that is being done in front. Or better, that you conceive that there is a body behind you. Just try to conceive that there is a body behind you, just a body just behind you. The same body is the same body behind your gross body. There is a fine body behind you. There is a fine body behind you. There is a subtle body behind you. There is a subtle body behind you, exactly in the same way as you are in front. There is a subtle body behind. And then when you have concentrated on it, or you have concentrated on some spaces behind, which contains the consciousness of the regions which are there in front, if the body doesn't come, just conceive of certain spaces behind you, which contains the consciousness of the things that are going on in front. You can conceive in that way also, if the imagery of the body doesn't come. And if the body is there behind you, and then now in the body in front, you have whatever what you call disharmonies you have. If you have any pains, any aches, any muscle twitches, any joint stiffness, transfer them to the body behind. Transfer any movement that is not in consonance with harmony. It might be a mild stiffness, mild pain, a mild twitch here, a mild muscle twitch, or mild spasm, or some movement which is there in the body in front, which is not in harmony with the rest of the things. Just put it behind, just shove it into the body behind. Just transfer certain things which are not in harmony in the body in front. Might be a headache, might be an problem with your eyes, might be something with your muscles, something with your stiffness, something with your joints, something with your aches, something very mild, something very minor, which is there disturbing you in front, or might be some disturbance in your stomach. Just transfer these disturbances to the body behind. Just try to transfer these disturbances to the body behind. Just try to transfer the disturbances to the body behind. So again, if the image goes away, images, remember, they will always go away. And we always have to bring back the images. The images play with us. Right? It is a habit of images to play with us. The images are our own things. So they play with us. And so you transfer whatever there is in front, you transfer them behind. You transfer them behind, whatever disharmony is there in front, muscle twitches, pains, stiffness, anything, just transfer them behind, to the body behind. Just transfer them to the body behind. Okay. It is just showing that something can be done. Might be, you see, if you practice this exercise, then slowly by slowly you will understand that there is a subtle body behind where our habitual movements can be transferred. And if our habitual movements can be transferred there, then constructive things, or things which are very positive, you see, things which are very constructive, which are very positive, which are positive formations, they can also be transferred there. So if something which is negative that is transferred, or something which is positive can be transferred there. You see, what is negative? I will tell you what is negative. What is negative? One day, one doctor, a lady doctor who was younger to me, she was suffering from migraine pain for a long time, migraine pain and depression. She used to suffer for a long time. I think she was suffering from some 10 to 15 years, when and only once she couldn't be without the medicines. Only once I had to stop her medicines because she was pregnant, and at that time that headache was unbearable. And fortunately, I used acupuncture for a headache, which worked for to some extent. But then all the things came back again after the child was born. Now one day she came running to me and telling me, I am seeing my corpse dangling over my body, over my head. Over my head, my dead body is just dangling over there. I see that my dead body is hung from the ceiling and it is just dangling over my head. Please do something. I can't bear it. Then what I did, because I was at my wit's end and I didn't have anything to stop that, and I thought that she would be committing suicide because of that, because that formation was so strong. It was a negative formation. It was so strong. So I told her, though she was a doctor, it was difficult to do, but I gave her an ECT. And once I gave her an electric current in her head, it disappeared. Then she said, thankfully, thank you. If you had not given it, I would have committed suicide. This image, which was dangling over me, would have driven me to commit suicide. Now you see, for 20 years, she was always thinking negative things. I am depressed, I will die, there is no use living, life is so meaningless. And for 20 years, these negative things, now they have become a formation. They became a formation, a negative formation. And that negative formation was possessing her and was trying to influence her to commit suicide. If a negative formation can be so powerful, then imagine if we can make a positive formation. And if we can make a positive formation, and if that positive formation can be made in our inner body, then it can be more powerful. And then it can actually bring harmony. It can actually bring well-being. And it can actually have a healing property in many illnesses. In many illnesses, actually this kind of positive formation can be a very strong adjunct to treatment, or maybe the main treatment, or maybe something which is more important and is going to change the course of life. So this is the power. This is the power of the subtle body. So you see, that is why you see from the ancient times it was known. That is why when the physical chakra they worked upon, they knew that this is something that they have to go. They have to bring the positive formations there. So if the negative formation can be so powerful, how much more powerful can be a real positive formation? And if that is also imbibed with something spiritual, if it is imbibed with something from the higher consciousness, so that it can be very, very powerful. So this is what we have to remember, that this is something which is there, this is available, and it can be done. We are not conscious of it. The main thing is that we are not conscious of it. Now we just go back, diversify a bit into the common conventional things which are associated with the chakras. And some of these conventional things have value, but the value is according to the value which we put into it. You see, that is a value. You see, the numbers have a value, the number of petals in the chakra have a value, the color of the petals has a value, all these outer things have a value. For Aurobindo, it is the essence which is important. He doesn't give importance to the outer conventions because he's wanting to do something different. He's not wanting to stuck up there. The older tantrics, they were interested in liberation. So one after another, when the chakras were liberated, they were leaving each and going above. So they were not concerned what was going on in the chakras that were left behind. So they were not concerned about that. They were more concerned in going beyond. But our concern is different. This concern is different. And therefore, and then Mother explains the conventions, how we should approach conventions. Because I'm saying this because when we go about chakras, we read so many conventional things, and so many things are there. So many, you see, there are 4 petals in the Muladhara. And if you search the literature, you will find that there are so many combinations given. The 4 petals can represent dharma, artha, moksha. The 4 petals can represent this. Another quadrant, another person will say another quadrant. Whom do you know? Whom to believe? So everybody brings his own experience to understand what the 4 petals represent. But the Mother's words, that's why very important. And of course, the Mother and Aurobindo have given significance, but that significance is not given from the common understanding. That significance is given in the transformative sense. So that is a difference. That is a difference. Now, when about convention, as Mother said, that if the convention is generalized and very widely adopted, then it can become a formation. We see that for that girl, for that lady doctor, that formation became very powerful. So the formation can become powerful in a general way if it is accepted in the mass. If it is generalized and is accepted in the mass, then it is very powerful. Then it can act. You see, it can act. So what Mother said, that what I call formations are images which can be animated, and they can be taken as symbols. And for us, the symbols are useful if they bring a subtle world in contact with the more material world. For us, because in general, of course, the symbols were devised by mystics and yogis for one reason. So the subtle and the gross, they should be brought together. Or the gross can be represented by something in the subtle realm, or the subtle realm can be represented by something in the gross realm. There is a process of correspondence. So in this relative world, everything is relative. So Mother caution that don't take all things literally. So when you are doing about chakras, then you can get so many different viewpoints. And then color, and Aurobindo comments about color, because color, there are so many different views of color. We'll give, of course, in this presentation, Aurobindo's views. But as Aurobindo says that colors, and then also he said about light, because light is represented with color. For some people, colors come in the subtle vision. For some people, lights come, different kind of lights, they come in the subtle vision. And then Aurobindo says that this indicates a play of forces, but doesn't mean that they will be in the same order. They can be different orders. So there is an order of psychological dynamism in colors. Faith, love, protection, all they can be represented by sets of colors. There is another order indicating the order activity of the divine beings. So Krishna has a color, Mahakali has a color, Radha has a color. So that is again a different set. It's not the same set. So they are different. And then there is another order of color that indicates the aura around objects and living persons, which we sometimes in our clinics, in people who work with auras, people who work with all these energies, they work with that. They understand people by their auras. A person committing, wanting to, very depressed, wanting to commit suicide, will have a very heavy and dark aura around, which if you are very sensitive, and if you are working with clinicals in clinical settings, you will be able to understand. So you see the different ways colors are used. So why I'm telling this, that we have to be very conscious and cautious when we are talking about these all these different kind of things. We have to be very conscious and cautious about it. Just like that, we cannot take and one side or the other of any commentator who is saying something or the other. Now, the conventional view of the Muladhara root chakra is, the conventional root is what? The view is what? That the Muladhara means, Mul means root. That means it is linked with the earth. One has to be rooted in the earth. So this was known. This was known from the beginning. This was known and accepted and acknowledged from the beginning. A very great truth that this is the chakra which symbolizes our what you call our rootedness to the earth, and is symbolized by red color. There are different meanings of the red color. We'll come to Aurobindo mother's meaning in the transformative paradigm. The meaning I will come to it afterwards. The color of Shakti, or the yellow center, the color of the earth, and the 4 petals. So usually this is for the usual purpose that the Muladhara, the root chakra, is related to stability, security, feelings of connectedness, and survival instinct. It is related to, because it is very basic. It is our sense of security is there when we are rooted to something. When we have a root, when we have a foundation, when we have a base, then only we have secure. A building that doesn't have a foundation is not secure. No, building has to have a stable foundation. Like that, our body is also a building, and it has to have a foundation, and that foundation has to be rooted to the terrestrial consciousness. And so, therefore, it is something which can be. It is something which is very basic, and therefore that the primal fear and insecurity can come if I am usurped from that root. You see, if I am made homeless, as happens to people who are refugees, people who are rendered out of the homes, you see how insecure they can become. And what is the fear? What is the insecurity in people who will be thrown out of their homes? It is like that, thrown up out of our foundation. What amount of fear it can arouse, the very thought of being thrown out of the foundation. So you see that fear is something which is a very basic thing which can block the work on this at this level. Now this is Aurobindo's. This is Aurobindo's verse. In the deep place where once the serpent slept. You see, it contains all things. It contains the present preoccupation of the tantrics and Aurobindo's vision, prevision of the future. In the deep place where once the serpent slept, means the Kundalini, where it was coiled. In the deep place where once the serpent slept, once means he is wanting to have it aroused. So it is a past tense. Once the serpent slept, there came a grip on matter's giant powers, because matter's powers are what you call concrete. Matter's powers are very concrete. Otherwise, our foundation would not have been stable. For large utilities in life's little space, there came a grip on matter's giant powers. For large utilities in life's little space, in that little space, because we are limited, we are only a formation of the universal consciousness, and in there something giant has to come. You see, even in our formation, which is an individual formation of the cosmic consciousness, which is little compared to the cosmic consciousness, there also something giant is happening, has to come. A giant event has to occur there. And what and the last line is important. We'll come to that. A firm ground was made for heaven's descending might. A firm ground was made for heaven's descending might. So that is important. We'll come to that. That is what our work in Muladhara, in Aurobindo's vision of work in the Muladhara is to make the physical substrate a firm ground for heaven's descending might. For what? For the force of transformation. So you see, if you see in the present moment that for the last, what we said, that if you are only connected with having stability, security, feeling of connectedness and survival instinct, then we are connected with physical well-being. Well and good. That is one goal. But we are wanting to have another goal, and that goal is to make the physical substrate receptive to the higher forces when those forces will come. So it's a great thing. Now, this chakra, Muladhara chakra at the base of the spine, is enmeshed in the physical consciousness that is one with the earth. It is where the Kundalini Shakti is lying dormant. Naturally, a concentration at the physical chakra consolidates the play of physical energies in life and releases the dormant power from its slumber. But this release can cause an upheaval, because there, in that, when it was enmeshed in the physical consciousness, these powers, they were quite happy. They were quite happy and inert, because it was inertia. They were displaying inertia when they were there, concentrated in the earth, in the terrestrial consciousness. Once you are wanting to arouse this chakra, you are activating this part, you are activating this plane of consciousness, then you are wanting to break the inertia. And breaking the inertia means that will be an upheaval. That will be an upheaval. So what will be the upheaval? It is a tremendous pain. It is a tremendous pain. It is a trauma. And that trauma and that pain can come in many ways. That pain can come and disturb you. So you are, when you are doing this work of bringing out of inertia the physical consciousness, and that you just bring it out from the inertia, it is so painful, it will bleed. Actually, it is something that is bleeding, and it is bleeding with pain. It is bleeding with pain, and that pain you have to bear. Mind you, when you are doing the work on the physical consciousness, this pain you have to bear. So this pain can come in many ways. This pain can come as a physical pain. Of course, it can come as a physical pain. It can come as a disturbance in your day-to-day functioning. It can come in pain in many denouements. The pain can come, and it can come also. The pain can get translated into other areas also. It can become not only a somatic pain, it can become a psychosomatic pain. It can have its psychological attributes also, and that pain can extend to suffering, and pain can extend to other things also, which are related with pain. So you have to be ready for this, that once you are wanting to break out from the inertia, then of course you will have a great gain, but then you have to be prepared for the pain. It is as if then when you have first gone to the gymnasium for doing exercises for the first few days or the first few weeks, your body has never exercised, then you have to overcome the pains and cramps and all these muscle twitches and all, right? And then after some time, might be about 2 to 3 months, then everything will become normal and you'll be able to bear it. It is the same thing in a more extended fashion. You just extend it into a greater way, that the same phenomenon. So in Aurobindian parlance, the activation of the physical chakra has a higher role, as it has to prepare the matter to bear the onrush of transformation or transformational forces that descend from the superconscious. So the activation has a higher role, because you are not only satisfied by being secure at this level and being free from physical diseases. That is one thing. But you want to prepare, you want to prepare it so that it can bear the onrush of the transformational forces. And it is difficult. It is difficult. Why? Not only because the physical plane is not ready, but below it is the inconscience. The physical has come from the inconscience. And the inconscience offers the greatest resistance to the transformation forces. And that resistance is there at every level. You see, at the level of the vital, at the level of the higher vital, at the level of the mind, everywhere it is resisting. But when you come to the physical, the resistance becomes, because not only psychological and vital, the resistance becomes physical. And therefore your suffering can increase manifold. Again, for this transformative paradigm, deep rate is just to tell you that rate can also become different. Once you see, the light that comes down into the physical for change actually is deep red, which is associated with the sunlight and the golden light. This is just for you, just to show that the colors also have a correspondence at a higher level, but in a different denouement. The golden red is the color of the supramental physical light. Yellow is the thinking mind. And number 4 signifies manifestation, because in the manifestation has to occur, has to start from the inconscious in the physical consciousness. The physical consciousness is the first where manifestation starts. That's why the number 4 is, if from Aurobindo parlance, number 4 signifies this manifestation. There are other, you see, if you go to the literature, you will find many quatrains have been there. Is all the way in which you are seeing. Aurobindo is seeing it from a transformational viewpoint, and from there the manifestation is important, where it is initiated, and it is initiated there at this level. Now the personal work at this Muladhara, that working on body consciousness, you try to feel the subtle body. You try to feel the subtle body, experience the habitual movements which you are talking, and infuse the positive formations. So now I will tell you that to experience what is the subtle body, or to develop your subtle body, you have to practice what we call relaxation. As you relax yourself more and more, your body will become more and more heavy. You see, savasana. Savasana means like a corpse, So the body becomes heavy as like a log of dead wood. Now, if you are not conversant with these things and you are still interested to work with the physical consciousness, I will tell you, start with a very, very simple exercise, which you can all of you, you are not conversant with doing this kind of work, you can all start doing this. You just sit underneath the fan. Just sit underneath the fan in your home, put the fan at high speed, and try to feel the air of the fan touching your whole body from head to foot. Try to feel the air of the fan touching your whole body from head to foot. You see, start from your forehead, that the air is touching your hairs, then your forehead, your eyebrows, your eye muscle, your eyelids, your eyebrows, your tip of your nose, your lips, your chin, your whole face, your neck, the nape of your neck, your shoulders, your chest, your back, upper back, your lower back, your tummy, your upper extremities, your thighs, your knees, your lower extremities, go down to your legs, feel everywhere the touch of the air. And you will be surprised to see that you will not be able to feel the air of the fan uniformly all over your body. Though you might be placed centrally underneath the fan, you will feel the air of the fan only in those places of your body which you have exercised, which you have consciously exercised. So if you are someone who had played football or who have danced, your legs will first respond, even if you have not played football or not danced for many years. If you are somebody who is a teacher, who is a professor, you are using your head more, you will be able to feel the air of the fan more on your head. If you are someone who is working with computers, someone who is working with your hands, something or the other, delicate things that you're working with your hands, you will be able to feel only in the hands. Now your task is now to do this exercise every day so that you can feel the air of the fan on your whole body. And once you feel the air on your body, you try to feel that the body is becoming heavier and heavier. The body is becoming heavier and heavier. The body is becoming heavier and heavier. Once your whole body can feel it heavier and heavier, see, you will not be able to feel it at first. You will only be able to feel the heaviness when you are being able to feel the air of the fan. That will be easier for you to feel the heaviness. So the teachers will feel the heaviness in the heads at first. The players, the sports people will feel it in the legs. The people who are working with computers will feel it in the hands. And the more you feel heavier and heavier and heavier, the more you feel relaxed. And then actually you will be able to understand by intuition the difference between the subtle state of your body and the gross state of your body. Unless you feel the heaviness in your body, that this means you have gone to a state of complete relaxation, where the autonomic nervous system is acting in a different way. It is the parasympathetic nervous system, it is acting, and it is a phase where actually anabolic activity takes place. You see, you have anabolism and catabolism, but when you are completely relaxed, it is more of anabolism that is taking place, and then only you will be slowly you will be able to understand that there is a subtle thing behind your gross body. There is a subtle body behind your gross body. Some of you who are playing the piano would feel it like that, because piano is a very sensitive instrument. Mother said that with the piano it is easier to feel the body consciousness, or what you call the subtle consciousness, the subtle physical. Mother called it the body consciousness. And this body consciousness is the consciousness of the body, which is something which is totally different. And you see, once you relax, then what you will discover? Very interesting thing you will discover. You will discover that as your mind has got a uniqueness. You see, your mind might be the mind of a scientist, or the mind of a yogi, or the mind of a writer, mind of an artist. As your emotions have a uniqueness. Your emotions, you might be an angry sort of person, or you might be very benevolent in your heart, or you might be a very moody person. So like that. So it is a character of your emotions. So mother said, purely physically, everyone has a character. These are the words she had used. Purely physically, everyone has a character. So our physical consciousness also has a character, has a uniqueness. Every person's individual body has a different uniqueness, a different personality. We are aware of our uniqueness of our thinking. We are aware of the uniqueness of our emotions. We are not aware of the uniqueness of the body. So the first start this. That start by understanding that your body is unique. And for that, the first thing that you have to know you relax, feel the heaviness, then slowly you will be able to understand the subtle body. Now, it is not enough. When you are working with the Muladhara, then another great thing you have to do. You have to bring down the light from the physical to the subconscious. Now the subconscious is too big to have a separate chakra, but it supports the physical plane, so there can be resurgence from there. And resurgence can come as chronic illnesses, chronic behavioral problems, chronic what you call habit disorders. So conscious extension of light into the subconscious is mandatory for uninterrupted progress. What does that mean? Yesterday, Dr. Vaishnav was reading out the poem, The Golden Light. I often recommend to meditate with that poem, with that sonnet, The Golden Light. And if you are in a habit of meditating on with the light that is coming down, so first you have to make your mind silent. Make your mind silent first. Make your mind completely silent. Make your mind completely silent. If you can't make your mind silent, then take the help of an imagery to make your mind silent. And in that silent mind, you bring down the light. You bring down the light from above. And then when the light has consolidated in the mind, bring down that light along your vertebral column, along the middle axis of your central axis of your body. Bring it down, down, down to the base of the spine. And from the base of the spine, like a torchlight, project that light into the subconscious as far as it can go. It will not go much because there is darkness below and the darkness will swallow the light. But still, you have to attempt it. That as you practice it, as you attempt it, that you project the light more and more, you are trying to clean the subconscious, and you are trying to see that the subconscious resurgence don't come and spoil your physical consciousness or spoil the work that is being done in the physical consciousness. So when you are working with the Muladhara, it is very important that not only you have to work at that plane of consciousness to develop your subtle consciousness, the body consciousness, because Mother has said, Sri Aurobindo has said that if you develop the body consciousness, it can act according to your will or against your will, even independent of your will. What does that mean? For example, if I have a pain in my body and from my mental will, I say, I will not have the pain. Will the body listen? The body will not listen. But if you develop this subtle body consciousness, that body consciousness can listen to your will. Even Sri Aurobindo said, it can act independent of your will also. You see, it is such an interesting thing. So if you want to have your willpower to work on your body, you see, small children have that. Very little babies have that. Now, a baby which has just started to walk, falls down and cries, and the mother comes and says, nothing has happened, and rebukes the floor, and the baby stands up. He knows that nothing has happened. So that nothing has happened, the mother said, his body takes up that suggestion. The baby actually listens to the whole body. The baby listens with the whole body. Very interesting. The baby listens to the whole body. We have an editorial in the Nama on this topic, how the baby listens to the whole body. So therefore, you see, the body consciousness is there, but afterwards it is withdrawn, because when the baby becomes a child, the mind develops and the mind brings on all distortions and deviations and everything, and doubts and everything comes up, and then the baby loses that natural capacity. Now we can recreate that natural capacity through yoga, when you can, that willpower can work on you. So, but again, this is not enough. You have to also sit and bring down the light. As I said, if you are doing it, bring it down at least once a week. You can do that. Many of you here who are attending are meditating, in the habit of meditation. So once or twice a week when we are meditating, when you have a little bit of time, when you have done your other usual things, then bring the light down, concentrated at the base of your spine, and from there, like a torchlight, that project it into the subconscious below. You are doing a great work. You have started your work on the Muladhara in a very positive way. So this is something we will be doing now. We have very little time today for this Swadhisthana chakra because we are nearly 5 o'clock. So I think we just a little bit I will tell, and we'll continue with tomorrow. The Swadhisthana chakra is the conventional view that it has a white lotus with 6 vermilion petals with a white crescent moon inside, representing water, because the water element is representing flow, flexibility, freedom of expression, and it represents unconscious and libidinal desires, and it is blocked by fear, especially the fear of death. Why? Because what you understand, you have to understand the vital. You see, after the physical consciousness in evolution, the vital comes. The vital comes when? After the physical consciousness has consolidated itself then life energy comes. Then life energy comes. You see, when life energy has not come, there is no question of death. You see, question of death only arises, the fear of death. There was fear there of insecurity there in the Muladhara chakra, the fear of getting separated from your foundation. That is a different thing. But the fear of death is a completely different fear. And that can only come when life energy has come and has impinged on the physical. Where there is no life energy, there is no question of death. So of course, in matter there is dissolution. Matter can get dissolved. That is one thing. But what we call death, what we consciously view as death, where life energy goes away, that death can only come when the question of life energy comes. And in life, you see, that is why you see, even in conventional chakra, you see, this is what is the conventional view. That is, the fear of death is the one which is going to which blocks this chakra. You see, in any conventional book on chakra, you will find that Sadhisthana chakra, the fear of death is one which is the most basic thing which blocks this chakra. Why? Because life energy itself is something which will bring the concept of death. Where there is no life energy, there is no concept of death. There can be dissolution, but dissolution is different. Now, the lower vital Aurobindo has said that in the narrow nether center's petty parts, his childish game of daily dwarf desires was changed into a sweet and boisterous play, a romp of little gods with life in time. Very difficult to understand this. You see that the lower vital is concerned with our passions, with our sexuality, with our petty desires, with all our lower things, and dwarf desires and daily dwarf desires are habitual things. Because unless these things were there, the creation, we would not have survived in creation. We survived because we have all these things. But this is now changed, not in the usual psychoanalytic sublimatory sense or not in the moralistic way. You know, people, how you want to change it? You want to change it in terms of morality? We want to change it in terms of morality. Or Freudians would want to change it in terms of sublimation. But Aurobindo is neither moralistic here nor sublimatory here. He is wanting to change it into a play of gods. This is very different. He wants that the same thing to be changed into a play of gods. He is not concerned about morality. The ordinary religion approaches this plane from the plane of morality, and Freudian and psychoanalysis and psychology has followed it in the question of what Freud had shown that sublimation was something which could be done. But Aurobindo brings in a completely different view. The play of gods, he brings the play of gods in this lower center. And so this lotus is the domain of our vital consciousness, marked by our petty vital physical desires that go on habitually recurring. The lower vital holds the repair of the libidinal energy, not the lower vital. This is the chakra of the lower vital, which holds our sexual energy or the libidinal energy, which bears both the life instinct and the death instinct. Both the life instinct and the death instinct, which is logical, as it is only with the appearance of the sexual mode of reproduction invested with lustful passion that death came into existence. You know, there was no death with asexual reproduction. There is no death in amoeba. There is endless replication. It is only with sexual reproduction, and then it was infused with all lust and passion, then that death came. And that is why I think, I believe that intuitively a section of spiritual seekers and mystics in India, who wanted to come to touch the consciousness of immortality, they wanted to go above sex. Not because for moralistic reasons, but because they intuitively knew that beyond sex was the domain which is beyond death. Perhaps because of that. Now, concentration on this abdominal chakra gives a mastery over one's basal instincts, not through Freudian sublimation, but by substitution of petty desires, by the play of gods, where the libidinal energy is surpassed by the deeper pranic force that is in communion with the cosmic energy. We will not have time today to discuss this. We'll discuss this tomorrow, where the libidinal energy is surpassed by a deeper energy which is there. The pranic force, I think yesterday, Siegfried was asking me this question about pranayama, and then I told him about that the outer energy that is there in the outer body. Behind it, there is an inner energy, which Aurobindo called the pranic shakti. And you connect it with the pranic shakti. That this level, if you connect it with the pranic shakti, you can get connected with the cosmic energy, and that is the way you can work at this level if you want a transformational agenda. If you want to work on a transformational agenda, then you have to work in this way. Now, vitality, you see, the lower vitality, what is vitality? Vitality is creative force. You see, life energy is coming and animating the forms. You see, the forms were produced in the physical consciousness, forms were produced. You see, Aurobindo described the physical consciousness as a place which shows accomplished divisibility. He used the word accomplished divisibility. That means it brings forms and the forms are unique. Now, when these forms are produced there, the forms have to be animated. They have to be creative. No? They have to be invested with energy. So vital is a creative force which invests the forms with energy. Otherwise, the forms would be lifeless. That is why it has 6 petals from Aurobindo's transformative viewpoint. That is why the Sadhisthana chakra has 6 petals, because 6 symbolizes creation. And the vital impinges on the physical substrate. The vital impinges on the physical, and this impingement on the physical causes a friction. And this friction is there as a pain, like a post-traumatic stress disorder, which you see, what is post-traumatic stress disorder? You have seen an accident many years back. And once now when you remember that accident, but not only remember that accident, at that time, your feelings, your bodily reaction, your horror, your sensory withdrawal, what happened to your senses, no? The recoil in your senses, when you saw that ghastly accident, that also comes back. You relieve that entirely. That's post-traumatic stress disorder. It was something not so important previously when we were students, but now with more and more terrorist activities and more natural catastrophes like earthquakes are happening, people are having more and more PTSDs. Now, like that, similar something like that, an old ancient, what you call a primitive PTSD, something like that. When in evolution the vital energy impinged on the physical, the friction was there, and that friction caused the pain, and that pain is carried in our organs. That pain is still carried in our organs, and they can come up as illnesses. So this is the genesis of chronic pain. This is the genesis of chronic pain. But this impingement of the vital that happened, it was also motivated by the Ananda of Sachidananda. No? When the vital jumped into the physical, you see, when I do a high jump, I can get a pain. But when I do a high jump, I do it with joy that I'm going to do a high jump. But afterwards, I can get hurt and I can pain. So that motivation was Ananda. Motivation was bliss. And that is why the pain can be transformed into Ananda. The same vibration of pain can be transformed into Ananda. So when you are working on this lower vital, you have to remember that the lower vital carries all the negative things which are opposite of Ananda. All these pains that come with when we fall back, or in our passions, in our unable to resist our lower desires, and we fall back and we get back to the pain. But then that pain can also be worked upon in that same vital physical, in that same plane, it can be worked upon to vibrate with the Ananda. So that is why. But then Ananda can descend and get distorted as hedonistic pleasure. That is the problem, because the inconscience is there, and that is the risk. So deviation at the level of the sacral chakra, what is the deviation? A deviation at the level of the sacral chakra, if you get deviated, I said yesterday that at any time when you're working with the chakras, you can get deviated. You can fall back into the abyss. And working with the sacral chakra, if you fall back into the abyss, what can happen? It can happen, the physical vital or the pishacha enjoyment. You see, the physical vital means the vital has to follow the demands of the physical. It is from this level that the rapes and sadomasochism and all this happen. In rape, there is no romanticism. No? Rape is like a wound in the body, Rape is like a wound in the body. So there is no enjoyment there. There is no romanticism there. So this is the pishacha enjoyment. Aurobindo calls this the pishacha. This is the physical vital, where the vital has to follow the demands of the physical. That is the pishacha enjoyment. And then the opposite is the other, or not I would say the opposite, another level is the vital physical, the rakshasa enjoyment, where the vital extracts obedience from the physical. So that is romanticism, no? When you are romantic, but then that has its negative things. You can be extremely romantic, and if that romance breaks, you can be extremely revengeful. You can do anything. You can become extremely cold. You can get extremely angry. You can do the most wildest possible things that can be conceived of. You can indulge in all those things. So you see that the sacral chakra is a very delicate place. It's a very, very delicate place, and you have to be extremely cautious, You have to be extremely cautious, because if you are not cautious, and if you are not connected with the pranic shakti, not connected with the cosmic consciousness, not connected with the gods at that level, then you can just fall back into the asuras. After all, the asura was also a god once, who became deviated and became the asura. So that is the same thing, the same being. As I showed on the first day, that is a being which disintegrates and comes and becomes the asura and the pisacha and the rakshasa. So the personal work at the lower vital, it does not respond to conventional moralistic approach. The lower vital deals with baser energies that are associated with petty desires, cravings, and lust. Ethics, morality, and religious teachings can point out the problem, but they can only deal with forceful suppression or unconscious repression. You see, religions, ordinarily religions, they forcefully suppress, and psychoanalysis believes in unconscious repression. Both mechanisms are not foolproof and can lead to unexpected resurgences of things which are already there, held up. Things that are held up there, you are just delaying the things. You see, when you are forcefully suppressing things or unconsciously you are repressing them, then it is not a foolproof thing. Anything can research from there anytime. So more mature way of dealing with this level would be connect with the deeper energies in the inner being at the junctional zone of the inner vital and the inner physical. We'll come to that tomorrow, and we try to do exercises on that tomorrow, where we connect with the deeper energies of the inner being at the junction of the vital and the inner vital and the inner physical. So there is an energy outside, there is also an energy inside. As there is an energy in the body outside, that energy is limited. Morning I can get up with a lot of energy and I think I will do a lot of work, but by afternoon I have cramps in my abdomen, and by evening I have headaches and so many things. So my energy gets cramped, and then I hear a very bad news, and then I get totally cramped. Now I have lost, I didn't get to the lottery, so I get dampened. So you see that my energy outside can be dampened by my mind, by my vital, by my body. Anything can dampen it. So, but when you go to the inner being, that energy there is not dampened by anything, not constricted by anything, not suppressed by anything. That energy is free. And that energy, there are very different levels of that energy. There is a level of energy that is acting at the junction between the inner vital and the inner physical. One, I can use breath or hatha yoga techniques to get connected with the deeper energies, which could be supplemented by higher energy. So one can get there. One can, of course, use these approaches, as Sigrid was saying yesterday about pranayama and other hatha yoga techniques are there. Very beautiful techniques are there, which will be connected with the deeper energies. That's actually the work of these techniques, to get you connected with the deeper energies. And the deeper energies can be supplemented by higher energies. You see that inside also the energies have different levels. When you go your own deeper energy, that can be connected with the cosmic energy, and then that can be connected with the higher energy. So real sublimation actually occurs in the cosmic consciousness. A real sublimation, if you use the word sublimation, not in the Freudian sense, but in a general literary sense, a real sublimation can only occur when you go to the cosmic consciousness. And then at time, when you do that, then a time comes when the petty desires and lusts, they automatically fall up from one's being. You don't have to forcefully get over them. They will automatically fall off from the being. So this is something which is a very interesting thing, that this real work actually will happen in the cosmic consciousness. The real work will actually happen in the cosmic consciousness, where, because the chakras are a cosmic phenomena, and from the individual we have to have an entry into the cosmic phenomena, so that we can work from there and then bring back again the benefit to our individual lives, so that we are fit for receiving the transformational energy, which again is a cosmic phenomena, supra cosmic phenomena. So individual and cosmos and individual, we are two sides of the same coin. We have to remember we are two sides of the same coin, with interchanging and interplaying with each other. And so whatever sublimation, whatever work at the level of energy which will be constructive to us, can only be done at the deeper level. And there at the cosmic consciousness, something will happen. So you can use these deeper techniques, or you can just go inside. If you are not conversant, or you are not comfortable, or you do not know, or you do not have time for this hatha yogic methods, you can also use your own consciousness to go inside, find out other different ways also, where you can open up to your energy, always keeping in mind that the psychic being, if you every time this, if you go back to the psychic being, then it will itself guide you how to go inside. You see, in this world of negative forces, how you are surviving. As an astrologer gives a person a stone, na, to withstand negative forces. So the divine has given us the psychic being, actually, which is the real protection against all negative forces. With the divine grace and with the psychic being, there, if you go back to the psychic being, even if you are not conversant with all these methods, because the psychic being is an intuitive being. The psychic being is an intuitive being, and we'll also show you the other methods where you can go into inner consciousness and you can use the pranic shakti there. So, but there are other ways also. We'll talk about it. Tomorrow, day after tomorrow, we'll come to this topic. We have crossed our time. We'll just leave a few minutes for you're taking drinking a cup of a glass of water, and we come back within a few minutes. Is it okay, James?
Sure, no problem.
So we can start. I think most of us are here.
Yes, sure.
So these questions, that I will give you the synthesis of yoga chapter page. You remember, I will give it. I will write it down in the WhatsApp group. And yes, one can practice positive formations, which is very important. Practicing positive formation is very important. Um, for example, even it has been shown that in diseases like even breast cancer, where you can have a formation that a army of soldiers, which are your white blood cells, they are attacking the invaders. You can construct imageries like that. In many illnesses, the positive formations have been found to be very helpful. Actually, negative formations are one which actually possess us. Possession doesn't mean always that we are possessed by some ghost or something. Na? We are possessed by our own negative things, which we have made, fed with many years. Na? We have fed and nurtured them by our negative things, and they become formations and they possess us. So we can also make positive formations also, and these positive formations are necessary for work in the body constant. Then only the subtle body will change. You see, negative formations are one which cause illnesses. So they cause illnesses from below, and outside it comes as illnesses. But actually, the illness is happening because psychologically we are inviting negative formations. So in the subtle physical, if you make positive formations, that is definitely going to act. And you can do it with a lot of imageries. You can start working. We use a lot of imageries now to start working with positive formations. Let me see one or two formations like that. We'll try to do these exercises. We'll try to do. And the fan is something like I just told it is something you can just be at a place where there is a breeze blowing, and if it is not like that, you can just what you call try to sit down and try to relax and feel heaviness. Try to feel that your head is becoming heavy, your eyes are becoming heavy, your neck is becoming heavy, your chest is becoming heavy, your hands are becoming heavy and heavier, your tummy is becoming heavier, your thighs are becoming heavier, your legs are becoming heavier, your whole body is getting heavier and heavier. Put on a mild music and put on mother's music and just go on relaxing and concentrating and find that you are becoming heavier and heavier, heavier and heavier. You can see it in front of an aquarium, watching the movements of the fishes, which mother recommended, and then you just consider that you are becoming heavier or heavier. Or alternately, you can do one of mother's exercises. You can start from there. You feel you image yourself that you are lying. I'm just extending mother's exercise. What she said, I'm just extending it a bit. That you lie down in the middle of an ocean on a wooden plank, and you are expanding, you are expanding, and then you are expanding so much that you are covering the whole of the water surface. And when you have done that exercise, when you have expanded, you are in the middle of an ocean, and the ocean was not turbulent, silent, and everything was silent and was smooth, and then you were just floating, and then you are widening, you are enlarging like a balloon, and while you are enlarging, you see, this is exercise given by the mother herself, and then you have enlarged so much that you have covered up the entire water surface. And then when you have become one with the water, total one with the whole ocean, after that you lie down still, and then you try to feel the heaviness, and then you'll be able to feel it. Then you will be able to feel it. In that state, that heaviness will come to you more spontaneously than when you do it just like that. And then you feel that heaviness as a wave that is coming in your head, in your neck, in your chest, in your limbs, everywhere. And then you try to see, you will feel that some places you are feeling that heaviness, some places you will not be able to feel the heaviness. And then your task is now to extend that heaviness everywhere. So that you do this exercise regularly, then after some time you'll be finding that you'll be able to find the heaviness everywhere. Once you have felt the heaviness everywhere, you know that you are now ready to understand the subtle dimension of your physical consciousness. Yes, about Siegfried is a very personal thing that I will tell you. This is a very personal thing which, because you are asking, and this is a very close gathering. That's why I will tell you that there is an experience I had, but this similar experiences I have, some of my known people who are working with consciousness also had. that sometime when this COVID-19 started, that in the middle of night, this, because I was concentrating that time on the COVID virus, especially by thinking about, because we are writing something, and then because the mother's experience, you know, that the mother's experience of the Spanish flu, that when the Spanish flu happened, then she explained that because the World War I had ended, and because there were many soldiers who had been suddenly killed, and at the time they were being killed, they didn't know that they were being killed, and this let loose a lot of negative forces, and this lot of negative forces that came from there caused a milieu in which the virus could thrive, the Spanish flu could thrive. And then mother did some occult work when she was in Japan, and from that evening, in Japan, the flu stopped. Now, of course, it didn't happen everywhere. The benefit came to the place where she worked. And then I was thinking very seriously that what could have happened, because mother is not there and we don't know the meaning here, what has happened. Though I have a different explanation of it, which I will tell. Now, but then this came that there is suddenly this being which is behind this, present COVID-19, it came to me and seized me. I had an experience of being seized completely by this being, and I was totally immobilized and was wanting to call the mother's name, but I was unable to call the mother's name. And at the peak of that thing, when that thing was in progress and I was seized completely and I was totally immobilized, and that it left me. And then I realized two things. First is that fear is the most important thing. Out of fear, we succumb first. And second thing is that life has to be consecrated much before to the divine. You see, you cannot start on that day, because on that day, it might be that if you call the divine, you will not be able to call. You will be immobilized and paralyzed to call. So something like that. But afterwards, I understood something else. Which is related to this body. You see this, why this special work on this physical chakra is important, because mother wants to build up a new body which is based on the cellular consciousness, and therefore anything good has a resistance. So her work on cells, work on the cellular consciousness as a separate entity from the physical consciousness, something more modified from the physical, a cellular consciousness. So that has to have resistance. One resistance that the cellular consciousness has for progress, one resistance is cancer. Now the virus being both living and non-living, has a greater age in causing a greater resistance to the work of the mother, work of the cellular consciousness. So that, and then the virus multiplies. You see, the cancer, cancer can spread to the body, but cancer is not contagious. But the virus is contagious. And mother said, when this transformation will happen, you see, we are discussing in terms of a transformational yoga. And when transformation will happen, that will spread like a contagion. She has said this many times. Otherwise, everybody has to start the work again and again. So one cannot do that. One cannot waste time. So it will just spread like a contagion. And now this present COVID virus or anything like this virus, what is happening in this pandemic, it is attacking not only the cell, it is attacking this concept of contagion, which is the contagion is to be done in a very high sense, in a greater sense of the higher things to be contagious, not only the diseases, but this is what you call a resistance. So what I said, what I felt that in the subtle physical, you have to draw in you have to connect the meditation that we can do for this viral, for this present epidemic, is to concentrate on the subtle physical, to concentrate on one subtle physical, link the subtle physical with the subtle physical around you with the cosmic consciousness. So you concentrate on a subtle physical, link the subtle physical with the cosmic consciousness, and then bring down the mother's light of protection there. Bring down the mother's light of protection there. So this is a yoga. This is something which you can do. Many of us can do that, who are open to it, that we sit, and when we sit, we concentrate on the subtle physical and extend from the subtle physical into the subtle physical that is around us, universal subtle physical, and aspire and invoke the mother's force and protection. Remember, one of the 12 powers of the mother is absolute health. Absolute healing power is one of the powers that mother wants to bring to the earth. So we should be proud of that, that mother has made health one of her attributes which she wants to manifest on the earth. So as doctor, I also feel I relate to her in a very strong way, because she has has got all concern for health, and we invoke that power so that it comes and it strengthens the subtle physical. So subtle physical is not disturbed or not distorted by forces that are disruptive. So in that way, in that sense, I think what you had commented, I answered just because you questioned. Otherwise, I would not have talked about this thing. Yes, Dr. Vaishnav, will you add something?
Regarding the COVID only, you see, in general, there are two types of diseases, infectious and non-infectious. And only disease that we know will enhance the risk of infectious diseases is diabetes. But it is an exception that COVID will be more severe if somebody has hypertension. I mean, at no time in the past we have heard that hypertension increases risk of an infectious disease. Obesity increases risk of an infectious disease, or ISD for that matter. So in a way, this provides a unique situation where non-communicable diseases, which are lifestyle-related diseases, which our ahar, vihar, achar, vichar, they are directly and in an unprecedented quantum contributing to this infection. So it has to be seen in that way that if, as you say, one can't pray on the last day. Similarly, one can't think of becoming clean on the last day. One has to have a normal, healthy lifestyle, even if one wants to not only prevent oneself from non-communicable diseases, also from communicable diseases. So, this is a dimension of disease and prevention for that matter.
Yes, yes, what you're saying is so true, and it has to be thought about.
Slightly out of this context, but I think it was related to COVID, that's why what I would say.
Yes, anybody else will add something?
I have a question, Dr. Basu.
Yes, yes.
We always talk about, the cosmic consciousness in a way, a light, on our head, and we receive it, and it goes through the columns of the, spine and all that. And now you are talking about light of the mother. So how we differentiate this cosmic light and light of mother?
The cosmic light and light of mother, you see, when you go to the cosmic consciousness, you are entering the fourth dimension. And the mother's light also comes to the fourth dimension. The cosmic consciousness is a very big place where there are many things that are happening. There are positive things that are happening, there are negative things that are happening. That is a higher level of the cosmic consciousness, the superconscient cosmic consciousness, which is actually the overmind is the highest range of the cosmic consciousness. Aurobindo called it superconscient cosmic consciousness. So mother's light can very well be there at those higher ranges of the cosmic consciousness. So, but cosmic consciousness is other things also, or negative things also, or positive things also. So, but mother's light is also from coming from beyond the cosmic consciousness, from beyond the transcendence. So that's why you will not be able to differentiate these things, and you can get very easily confused with different kinds of lights unless you take your position in the psychic being, unless you consolidate yourself beyond the around this beyond ego principle of the psychic being. You can actually get disturbed by all sorts of things that come. You see, there is a risk in spirituality. The risk in spirituality is that you can be swayed by many things, not by the proper thing. Our only safeguard is the psychic being. Around, if you have consolidated it around yourself around it, then you are sure that, or you have a guarantee that you are going to get the right thing. Otherwise, it is difficult. You will get lost.
Right. Thank you.
Yes, Ketki?
Yes, I had one comment and one question. The comment was when you mentioned the colors, it reminded me because mother also uses the same colors with flowers. So whenever she names the yellow flowers is always associated with mind. I've noticed red flowers with physical, then white, anything that same flower, if it is white, it becomes integral. And pink, it is psychic. So I was just associating that with the way mother has named the flowers with those colors. That same yellow with mine, that I wanted to comment on.
These colors that today what today I was showing was what was given by Aurobindo.
Oh, okay. But it's the same thing only. So I just reminded me of that. The question was when you gave us that exercise of projecting the bad things in the body, in the subtle body, does that heal? And like, what is that relation? Like the positive formations when we do it in the subtle body or in the gross body, and so that clarity is not there. And when it goes
You
back,
see,
when we get
the
it back,
subtle body, the gross body is interfused with the subtle body. The subtle body is interfused in penetrating the gross body. So if you bring down anything into your subtle body, you consider that you are bringing it in your subtle body, then automatically from the subtle body it will enter the gross body. Because it is actually, for our understanding, we are talking as if they are separate things, but they are all intertwined with each other, interfused with each other. And you bring down the light into the subtle thing. Now, of course, you cannot bring it into the gross thing. You have to bring it into the subtle thing. And from the subtle, it will enter the gross. Yes, Professor Shailendra.
Yes, Dr. Basu. Again, thank you for a wonderful session today. My question is really about creativity and the inconscient and the subconscious. I happen to interact a lot with very creative individuals, very, very creative. You know, the people who are poets, artists, musicians, advertising folks, marketing folks, they all tend to be very creative, and there is a disturbance about them, right? They are into drugs, into alcohol, into late nights, all of those things. And if you talk to them, they say that one goes with the other. So I would love to get your feedback on that.
This is mother has answered this question, and that answer is in English, not in French. In conversations where she has been asked that why are artists irregular in contact. So there are many levels. What mother said, but also together with the other things also she has said at other times. But one thing she said, that the people who are very creative, they want to do new things. And wanting to do new things, they want to disconnect from the past. They want to do absolutely new, and they want to disconnect themselves from the past. And the disconnection can happen. But to do something new, you have to have a new set of values. That doesn't come easily. You see, that happened with the counterculture movement of the 1960s, when the hippies and all things came. No? It was the first time that from the past, all bonds were cut off. They were wanting to do something creative and all that, and everything that is related to the, which is new, which is completely new, and which is not cut off from the, which is cut off from the past, which was even during the Renaissance, inspiration was taken from the past. But this is the first time. But what happened, there was no new set of values came. Then there was a what you call a vacuum, and in that vacuum, then all the things happened. This is one thing. Second thing is that what is creativity? So many people who are doing creative things might be actually reproducing things that can be described. Descriptive things, there is a very nice scenery, which you have a technique, you have a very good technique to translate that experience into an art form. If you had a camera, you would also have done a very creative photographic work with that camera. But true creativity that comes from very high above, it comes from the intuitive place. That is very rare. If you read Aurobindo's works on poetry, then he has all great poets. He is singling it out to K.D. Setna, which comes from creative plane, which comes from less lower planes. Then you can have a little bit of understanding that everything is not creative, but they might be very beautiful. But creative in the sense that it is very coming from a very high intuitive or creative plane. Not from that. It is creative in the sense that it is a very good descriptive term. Another very important thing is that many things that go in the modern art, they are also things that are brought up from the inconscious, which is in a way, if you say that, okay, there was a very great artist in Santiniketan who was always working with people who were undergoing hunger and famine and all that. And all the figures were like that, emaciated and all, which is a part of truth, which is truth also. So he will say that I am depicting truth. But then I was seeing his students, some of them, they were also continuously taking heroin and taking cannabis and not eating anything, and themselves emaciated and drawing emaciated things. You cannot draw also things which are non-emaciated, more beautiful, which have life. which have something that is also truth. Of course, that we accept it. The what you call something which is not beautiful, the ugly, that is also part of truth, and that is why truth is naked, and that is why Aurobindo always used to say that because what we don't say beautiful, what we say ugly, because we also consider that to be truth, because truth is naked. So we describe the Shiva Linga, the piece of stone as Shiva Linga, or the Jagannath, no? The statue of, or the idols of Jagannath, which appear to be so different from beautiful images. It's something different. But then they bring up, you see, you are very careful, you will see some of these images from the inconscious are just brought up. And that is also creativity, but creativity by indulging into the inconscious from the nadir. But there is a zenith now where you have to go. And then there is another thing, that is the what artists and all, especially when they get, I have tried to explain to this many times. I have in my life, I have seen many patients who are artists. And for many, when they started drawing very good pictures and started earning a lot, I had tried to tell their parents and all that, please restrain them. Please send them to a studio under a master. Please don't, because his work is fetching money, don't indulge into that. Everything will be spoiled, his character, everything, because as mother said, that power, sex, and money, they are interrelated. Three will always come with one another. They are not isolated things. Power, sex, and money are always interrelated with each other. So if you get money there, then immediately the others also will follow. So then it is a trap. It is like a three-headed dragon. It is a trap where you will fall. So it is so many things are there. Many things are risky. Many things are risky. But true creativity also, then also, because they say, you see, that artists will say that art for art's sake. Art for art's sake. So this is a question that has been raised many times in front of Sri Aurobindo, and Sri Aurobindo was saying, all right, but then you can also have this, that art for the sake of divine, that can also be done.
So, so Dr. Basu, how does one enhance creativity? And I'm thinking more of the kind of creativity that we need in India, that is to create new design-related businesses, like Apple Computer. How do we create an Apple computer in India?
No,
How do we use this
you have to
knowledge?
develop intuition. You have to develop intuition.
How do we do that?
The age of intuition is coming. Sri Aurobindo said that the age of reason will be replaced by the age of intuition. And Baksan also in the West has said that. And he said that doesn't mean we become irrational. Intuition will do the work of reason. Same work it will do, that different denominator it will do. Unless you do that, it is not possible for that to come.
How do we do that, Dr. Basu?
That we have to practice, because it's separate sessions. We have to practice that. Sri Aurobindo's evolution of the cognitive consciousness, which has given a great thing, how to develop intuition, that is a separate thing altogether. We can practice that. We had previously one or two sessions to that, and we can develop those sessions. And actually, how to develop intuition is itself a very big thing. We can have once a full course of developing it and having a session with
that will be very powerful, Dr. Basu. Let's do it ASAP.
I think very much, you see, if you ask me, with this educational system is undergoing change, I think the first thing that we have to do, take Sri Aurobindo's cue and go to that mind which handles simultaneously complementary and contradictory viewpoints. You see, there is a level where I take counseling classes. The first thing I tell my students, I ask them, because in counseling you have to be non-judgmental. So the first thing that I ask them, that are you, irrespective of your caste, color, sex, religion, are you the same? And they, because they are postgraduate students and very enthused, they will say yes, yes. I said then there is a world of thought where all thoughts have the equal value. So the person who is thinking the opposite of you has equal credibility as you. So unless you come to that, you cannot have a catholicity in thinking. And unless you come to there, you cannot be free from today's fundamentalist activities, like what is happening with ISIS and all this, what you call indoctrination that happens, with fundamentalist indoctrinations happen, where Mother Claus calls them exclusive thinking, that exclusivism in thinking. You cannot, so that is the first step, that you get above it to that plane where contradictory and complementary ideas stay together. Now people will say, people ask me, is that possible? I said, why not? If a boy can be trained to play chess with oneself, so in a debate in a school, when we have pitted one set of boys against another set of students, one will say for the theme, another will say against the theme. Why not ask the same student to say both for and against the theme? You can train the mind in that way. If one can play chess with oneself, there is no point that we cannot do that. So that thinking, we do not know to think. First of all, that we do not know to think in a very positive way. And our thinking is so constrained. But Shiomi said that I know that the opposite of what I say is true. Such a big word. Only Shiomi could have said. But then he was very naughty also. So he added, but at the moment what I say is true. That is not to cause confusion. And he said, but he began that. At the moment, I know that the opposite of what I say is true. So that is the thinking. Actually, we need something with special sessions on thinking. And we need to propagate that everywhere among students. Then something will come up and intuitive ideas will come.
Sorry to persist with this, Dr. Basu, but this is critical, absolutely critical. The one thing that I've noticed is that Aurobindo and the ashram is full of so many creative people, but somehow that creativity is confined to that circle. We need to find ways to take that creativity to the world and build things of value, like an Apple computer, like a Microsoft, like a Google. These are the things that we need to build through creativity and management and applying these techniques. So I'd love to sit down with you at some point and see how we can actually develop something along these lines, because that will be transformational, revolutionary even.
Good. This is excellent. This is something we can derive, because otherwise, what is the meaning of life? If something positive, at the level of thoughts and ideas are not done. So, James, we'll call it a day.
Yep, I think so. Excellent session, Dr. Basu. Thank you very much indeed. Until tomorrow, everyone, 4 o'clock. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Basu. Thank you, James.